Hi there once again. Welcome to this new iOS 7 programming tutorial. Uh, Today we're going to go over how to use databases and SQLite or SQLite, and there's really no correct way of pronouncing it, so choose yours. Um, so first of all, we're gonna go ahead and create a new project. It's gonna be a single view application, and we're going to name it SQLite Database Example. Now this is a very useful feature because it allows you to store a lot of data in your phone, so you can use for your application. Now, if you're familiar with SQL or SQL, this is going to be a pretty straightforward example. Otherwise, if you haven't never seen anything about databases, you'll still understand the example, but I recommend checking out some SQL and like how the syntax works because it's a bit confusing when you start learning it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to build phases here, link binary with libraries, and we're gonna add a new one. It's going to be libsqlite3. Alright, and now the last thing we need to do in order to use SQLite, or however you want to call them again, is go to the viewcontroller.h file, and we're going to import SQLite3.h. Now we're going to need to add a path and a pointer to a database in our app. So the first thing you need to do is go here and create a property, strong, non-atomic, and a string for the path. We always do this when we use files, so you should be really familiar with it because this is the third tutorial in a row where we use it. And this is new. We need to create an atomic pointer to an SQLite3. Alright, now it's time to go to the user interface. It's going to be very similar to the last tutorial, so I am just going to fast forward that part and move to the code. Alright, take a look at this and we're gonna move forward. Go to our implementation file here. And the first thing our app needs to do, as always when we're using files, is check if the file exists, in this case the database, and if it does, search for information on it. If it doesn't, we have to create it. So go to the view load, and I'm gonna fast forward this part again because we've done it twice already, so just take a look at the end result. Notice how the name of the file is .db, that means it's a database, and now we check if the database exists. If it doesn't, what we're going to do is constant character pointer database path. It's going to be equal to database path, and we're gonna need to encode it. This is just something you need to do whenever you're using databases, and we're using UTF-8 string. Now, if SQLite3 open, we open an instance of the database. You always need to do this when using it. When using databases, database path, comma, reference to the database. Remember, our database is a pointer. We declared it in the header file. So now we need to pass a reference to the method. Now a pointer to a character called error message. If you've ever done C++ or C, this is going to be pretty straightforward using pointers and references. Otherwise, just bear with me, I guess. You'll end up getting it. SQL statement, and this is going to be the query, and it's a string that contains a like line of code that the SQL is going to process and do changes on the database. So it's going to be create table if not exists. So if the table doesn't already exist, we're gonna name it users with field ID integer. So integer is going to be the type of the field, and it's going to be named ID. Primary key auto increment. So this primary key means that the ID is going to be unique. Names can be repeated, phone numbers can be repeated, addresses can be repeated, but the ID is going to be unique. There's only gonna be one. And each time we add a new user, the ID is going to be one more. Name, text, there's not string, so you just say text. Name is gonna be the field. Address is also gonna be a text. And finally, phone is gonna be a text. Alright. Now, if Sqlite3 execute db statement, this is just going to be null. This is going to be null too. Finally, we pass the error message reference because error message is a pointer, and we need the actual object. Close it if it's not equal to SQL. This is a constant. Date. Okay. We're gonna show a user interface alert. I'm gonna cover this in a different tutorial, but I just have this snippet of code in here. So UI alert, I'm just gonna drag and drop it here. Alright, in order to create a basic UI alert, you need to create an object of type UI alert. You allocate it and you init with title, message, delegate is always itself in this case. The cancel button title, okay, so the button you're pressing to dismiss the dialog or the alert, and it's okay, and then you solve it. So what we're going to do is solve. So UI alert with message. I created this method, so it's a bit easier to use it. You can copy it. Fail to create table and the title error. Then we are going to close it. So Sqlite3 close, and we pass the database. And else so you alert with message failed to open or create the table, because if we have an error here, that means that we got an error here when we try to open the database, and also error. When you're making your apps, you don't really need to show the user so much information. A lot of times you're just gonna do something in the background and not tell the user, but for this example it's also good to know how to process queries. Alright, and this is the create part. Now we have to go to the save button. Now Sqlite3 statement, this statement constant character pointer database path going to be equal to database path UTF the same as before. Now if Sqlite3 open database path database, SQLite. If we can open it correctly, we create a string insert SQL, and this string is going to be a string with format. Alright, it's gonna be insert into users, the name of the table, not the fields we want to insert. We want to insert name, address, and phone. Remember, the ID is auto increment, so we don't need to worry about it. Now, values. These are going to be the actual values. Because they are strings, you need to, in SQL, you need to indicate that they are strings by using this, commas. And then a placeholder, so percentage, add another bar, and this. I'm just gonna copy it because it's too many signs and it's too slow to type them. And like that. There's gonna be name, text, address, text, and finally the phone. If I can spell it, of course. And we close it. Alright, now that we have a string that's going to insert that value into our database, we create another constant character pointer called insert statement, which is just the insert the SQL UTF string. We have to encode it before using it. Alright, so now we have the insert statement. I think this is a good point to stop the tutorial. Be sure to check the next part, and thanks for watching.